The term Knick is simply a shortened version of the word Knickerbocker. Here's the breakdown of where the name comes from. The Dutch settlers. In the 1600s, the Dutch settlers who came to the New World to establish New Netherland, which later became New York, wore a specific style of trousers. These pants were baggy and rolled up just below the knee, and they were known as Knickerbockers. The literary connection. The term gained massive popularity in 1809 when the author, Washington Irving, wrote the satirical A History of New York under the pen name Diedrich Knickerbocker. The character was so widely recognized that Knickerbocker became a universal nickname for anyone who lived in New York. The basketball team. When the Basketball Association of America, the precursor to the NBA, granted a franchise to New York in 1946, the team's founder, Ned Irish, wanted a name that was iconic to the city. The name Knickerbockers was drawn out of a hat by team executives and soon shortened to the Knicks. So, when you are cheering for a Knick, you are technically cheering for a pair of 17th century Dutch trousers. The history of the Dutch settlers who established New Netherland in the 1600s, the same settlers associated with the Knickerbocker name, is deeply entwined with the institution of slavery. While the cultural legacy of the Dutch in New York is often remembered through names and folklore, their economic survival and expansion relied heavily on enslaved African labor. Here's an overview of the slave history of the Dutch settlers in New Netherland. The introduction of slavery in 1626. The Dutch West India Company, WIC, the colony of New Netherland, was operated as a business venture by the Dutch West India Company. In 1626, facing a severe labor shortage, the WIC imported the first group of enslaved Africans to New Amsterdam, present-day Manhattan. The first arrivals. Historical records indicate this initial group consisted of 11 men, whose names, such as Paul de Angola and Simon Congo, reflected their Portuguese-controlled African origins. 2 years later, 3 enslaved women were brought to the colony to encourage the men to settle and have families, which the WIC viewed as a way to produce a self-sustaining enslaved workforce. Labor and building the colony. Enslaved Africans were the primary labor force that built the foundational infrastructure of what would become New York City. Construction. They cleared land, constructed houses, built roads, and erected the defensive wall that later gave Wall Street its name. They also built Fort Amsterdam. Agriculture. Enslaved laborers were used extensively to farm the land, ensuring the European settlers had enough food to survive the harsh early years of the colony. The concept of half freedom.